ATACMS Time. Great news are coming from Crimea. Ukraine launched one more strike on very important Russian raiders and military bases. We have even video about it. Well, first of all, I'm going to show you the direction. It all happened on the southern part of Crimea, but also traditionally it was allowed in Sevastopol as well. So the big Russian raider was targeted not far away from Alushta. We have the video recorded from this place, but at first let's zoom to the place. I'm going to show you the raider itself. So it's like a big, huge antenna. The antenna looks like that. I wasn't able to find any sort of the information about it, but probably it is used for the space communication, because those kind of the antennas are very similar to this one. But I'll try to find more information about this. Here's the video. As I promised to you, the video was filmed from Alushta, and there were some of the kabooms recorded on that particular place of that radar or antenna. At first one, then Russia launched the air defense, it didn't help, and right after the other kaboom happened. And we have this name of Alushta, so it's 100% correct. But as I told you, there was not just the single radar targeted, there were numerous of the kabooms out there. Still, we are waiting for more information from the place, more videos or satellite images, and later on I'm gonna confirm everything about this case. For now, I may only say about this particular radar near Alushta. Also, Ukraine ambushed the Russian air defense systems not far away from Donetsk, in Mospina settlement, Mospina town. Russia had many of the S-300s and S-400 systems located out there, and we have the confirmation, the videos and photos from the place, so those were ambushed. So here you can see the cabin of the trike itself and the remains of the launcher. And one more system is burning. My friends, first of all, I share those kind of the videos on my Telegram channel, so if you want to be updated on the situation in Ukraine, please subscribe for my Telegram. You may find it in the video description just below. Well, here we have for sure the S-400 radar, totally kaputted by Ukrainian, probably Storm Shadow or Scalp. We are out, or maybe even ATACMS. The cameraman did a great job using his finger, but nevertheless we can see this strike and the system itself totally demolished. I think I need to reach for some sort of the statistics to tell you how many of the S-300s and S-400 systems Russia has lost. Well, I think more than 20 for sure. Yesterday I showed you those drone boats, Magura 5, equipped with Grad missiles. Well, today we have the confirmation that those drone boats have already been used by Ukraine. As you can see, they are firing some of the missiles towards the shore or maybe the ship. It's a good tool to have the distance targeting of any sort of the aim. But still, it is kind of the hard job to do, especially when you have a 3-second delay because the signal goes to the operator back in Ukraine. So it takes 3 seconds for it to travel and to control the boat. So it's not the lifetime operation. My friends, if you want to support the job that I do daily on YouTube, you might join my Patreon page. It is available with my personal link in the video description just below, or you may scan the QR code available on the screen. Thank you so much for your awesome support. Obviously, you may do it only if you have the ability to do it and if you want it. Awesome news continues. Ukraine went on a counterattack in Vovchansk city. For a very long time, Russia was pushing with their infantry. They tried to move their tanks and heavy vehicles to the city unsuccessfully, and for the first time Ukraine sent its reinforcements and trying to kick Russians out from the city center. Using tanks, but Russia continued to target the city with aviation gliding bombs. For now, Ukraine doesn't have the robust tool to counteract to that threat. So Russia tried to occupy Vovchansk very fast and move forward, but it turns out that it could be the next Avdiivka city for the Russian army. The fighting there could take even several months. That's why Russia sends more and more reinforcements, probably making Kharkiv as one of their main directions. So 2 days ago we had the confirmation that Russia sent 2 of the regiments to Kharkiv Oblast, mostly to attack the Vovchansk city. Also, we have the additional information that Russia sent their paratroopers, who usually play the role of the emergency Russian troops, and Russia sends them to the most difficult directions if the battle is not going according to the plan. For that reason, paratroopers from Pskov were sent to Robotyne, for example, to the southern part of Ukraine, Zaporizhia Oblast. They were more successful compared to the regular Russian army, but still very slow. The same picture we should expect in Vovchansk. And what holds the Russian army in a place is the river of Volcha. It has very abrupt shores. It's not easy to cross it even with infantry, so Russia have to build some of the bridges across it using the engineering forces, but those could also be under Ukrainian drone strikes. So the total Russian army group in the Kharkiv direction is now more than 40,000 people. Before it was more than 30,000, around 33. In the neighboring Sumy Oblast, Russia concentrated 11,000 soldiers. So the idea of the Russian military command was to deflect the Ukrainian reserves to fight in Kharkiv and simultaneously increase the pressure on the eastern side of Ukraine. But we see a total different picture now for the Russian army. This time Ukraine attracts the Russian reserves to fight in the Kharkiv area. Meanwhile, we don't see a huge propulsion of the Russian army on the east. Yeah, they take some ground, we're going to speak about it later in this video, but they do it very slowly, even slower than before this Kharkiv operation of the Russian army. Well, if we look at the map from this perspective, Russia has two of the strike directions, and here they totally bogged down. There is no movement from their side for several days, and Russia sends more reinforcements to Volchansk direction. So this double vector attack with limited forces was kind of the stupid idea for the Russian army, even though Ukrainian defense lines were not so good prepared compared to the Russian defense. But still, Ukrainian soldiers managed to stop the Russian army. It's awesome. Yeah, the situation is still kind of difficult for Ukraine, but we see that Russia is in lack of any sort of the resources to threaten Kharkiv. Well, they may only launch the artillery strikes and ballistic missiles to target their residential buildings out there. Today they attack Kharkiv once again. It happens daily. But on a war field, no, there is no perspective for the Russian army in Kharkiv Oblast, at least with the resources they currently have. So they need to decide whether to make Kharkiv direction as the main one and move reinforcements from the eastern side of Ukraine, where they recently had the success advancing from Avdiivka. Those kind of the strange decisions from the Russian army could be connected to the Russian military command change. Many of their high generals, like for example very famous Sohrab Ahmedov, was dismissed. He was the commander of 20th Russian army. And some were even arrested, like for example Gerasimov's deputy, General Shamarin, who was the fourth commander in the Russian army rank, right after Gerasimov. And we see many of those reports, and I think it's not yet over. Putin, with FSB, I'm sure about it, decided to reform the Russian army military command. He started to accuse many of corruption, but I think that the main idea is not behind corruption in the Russian army. Everything is much more simple. With that, Putin just afraid of his own generals. So together with the FSB clan, he decided to reform the Russian army command. That's why Shoigu himself also left the Russian army. Right after elections, Putin found that he got the unlimited power. So he thinks that he might conquer all of the Kremlin towers. We call like that the influencers within the Russian elite, like for example FSB, military, politics, businessmen, Putin himself, those are all Kremlin towers. And sometimes they argue between each other. Military usually, for example, hate Kadyrov Tower, and as you can see now, the FSB is following military, accusing them for corruption. But corruption in the Russian system is absolutely everywhere. So we'll see if Putin together with his FSB friends are successful with conquering the other influencers of the Russian elite. Great news about Ukrainian children. 13 of them were returned back to Ukraine with the help of Qatar. Qatar is now playing a mediator role between Ukraine and Russia, trying to return as many children as possible from Russia. Still, thousands of children who were kidnapped from the occupied territories of Ukraine are now remaining in Russia. Alright, according to the New York Times, Anthony Blinken is now trying to convince Joe Biden to give the permission for Ukraine to use everything of that. ATACMS jealous, the BGLMRS. All of that, Ukraine crucially needs to conquer the Russian military bases and the Russian forces, plus their logistic supply lines on the Russian territory which is bordering Ukraine. Well, it's absolutely awesome that Ukraine had obtained the main military support from the United States Congress. Now we'll have $61 billion United States dollars to be spent for Ukrainian military, but we also need that particular permission to avoid Russia to strike Ukrainian territory in other directions. And there are now some rumors that Russia might go to Chernihiv Oblast and also to Kiev. That's why Kiev now displacing the part of its budget to secure the Chernihiv region, which Russia also attacked, and it started a full-scale war against Ukraine. So hopefully Joe follows this proposal and agrees on this permission. For now, we have the great news from the United States of America that they are willing to provide new military support for Ukraine. It is all the part of this huge military package, and the next week Ukraine will obtain 275 million United States dollars, but not the actual money themselves. We can obtain the vehicles and other weaponry that is crucially needed for Ukraine. So almost every week or once in 2 weeks, Ukraine obtains new military packages from the United States. They're serious about it, and that is how Ukraine actually is going to stop the Russian offensive, which is happening right now. This month, Ukrainian Marines are trained to perform the landing operations. For those, they use the speedboats given by Finland. Remember how around 4 months ago I told you about the probability that Ukraine might conduct the landing operation somewhere even in Crimea? Well, I still think that this scenario is possible, especially now that Ukraine intensified the attacks on the Russian radars, air defense systems and mainly Russian bases of Crimea, plus targeting lots of the ships. The main issue could be with the Russian helicopters. To counteract that threat, I think there should be lots of the manpads which our guys might carry on those boats. So yeah, there is the high possibility for the landing operation to happen. Well, at least I see it like that. Maybe our military command thinks differently, but they're definitely preparing for something. Russians are also trying to perform some sort of the landing operations, but usually those are very unsuccessful for them. It is happening not far away from Crimea. By the way, today it was a misunderstanding that the Ukrainian army had left Crimea. Well, it was just a misrepresentation of the information. Our guys went ahead, not left Crimea. They actually pushed Russians southbound, taking more profitable ground. That's it. So Crimea is still under control by Ukrainian armed forces, at least the part of that settlement, and Ukraine moved even forward. Awesome. Alright, something's happening around Taiwan today. China launched the military drills. They did it on the third day after the new Taiwanese president took the power in Taiwan, while Chinese Communist Party calls him a separatist or something like that. So they did exactly the same scenario as it was after Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan back in 2022. By the way, I got a very interesting stream about that event. So far, it's the most popular stream of mine. Well, anyways, we have some of the threats towards Taiwan from China. Some media sources even say that China will invade Taiwan in early June. As for now, the Chinese military have begun the drills surrounding entirely Taiwan, including islets of Kinmen and Dongyan, which are close to the Chinese mainland. What kind of the source says that China will invade Taiwan in early June? I'm out of clue. I wasn't able to find the original information. All of that comes from some sort of the global press, nothing more. Well, maybe they know something, we'll see in early June, but I think, it's my personal opinion, that China will fail this war if they start the landing operation in Taiwan. Potentially could be the biggest military operation in human history. Does China have the resource for that? No. They still have the air carriers in construction, so I think that China still may do it, but a little later, after a few years. That's what China's foreign ministry spokesman says. Taiwan independence forces will be left with their heads broken and blood flowing after colliding against the great undertaking of China achieving complete unification. Wang Wenbin says like that. Well, Taiwan officials responded that they're not looking for the war, but if needed, they will not avoid it. So if CCP decides to attack Taiwan, there will be clashes for sure. The Russian channel started to publish those kind of the pictures from one of the African countries. I wonder what kind of the country is that. And they blurred the face of the guy, and he looks very similar to Prigozhin. And there are some of the rumors that definitely this is a Prigozhin. But we don't have any proofs of that. Officially, Prigozhin died because of the air crash accident. Well, basically Putin shot him down, that's it. Personally, I do not believe that it's Prigozhin, but still there is a little chance for it to be true. Guys, come on, one more Sukhoi-25 attack airplane for the Russian army was shot down by our defenders. Already 6 airplanes for this month of this particular aircraft type. Tremendous losses for the Russian attack aviation. I bet that the Russian Sukhoi-25 pilots are damn scared flying on their missions. All of that is because of the Stinger, manpads and other tools that we have to defend Ukrainian skies. Absolutely great job by Ukrainian defenders, no doubts. And this smoke and the screenshot comes from the Russian Sukhoi-25 which hit the ground. Better than Armata, better than Abrams, Russia continued to modernize their tanks, making Blatmobiles everywhere on the front lines. Apparently this construction is damn robust against the drone attacks, but I saw already many of the videos how Ukrainian drones hit this target and finally able to stop the Russian tanks. Plus there are lots of the mines and artillery which also help to slow down those tanks or completely demolish them. Viewer discretion, if you are cringe sensitive, please reduce the volume, otherwise you will not handle it. It's the United Nations address after Raisi's death, the death of the Iranian president who assassinated many of the people of Iran, thousands of them. And here what is happening in the United Nations. Let's listen to officials.
Had duty to pay tribute to the memory of His Excellency Syed Ibrahim Raisi, President of the Islamic Republic of Iran, who passed away on 19th May 2024. On behalf of the General Assembly, I request the representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran to convey our condolences to the government and people of the Islamic Republic of Iran and to the bereaved family of His Excellency Syed Ibrahim Raisi.
Honoring Raisi as some sort of the great guy of Iran who helped a lot to the people of Iran, but actually it's vice versa. He was just a demon, a dictator who got rid of his own people. So it was a huge relief, I think, for Iranians after the news about the helicopter crash. Well, sadly, this story will not change the Iranian vector of development, but hopefully it will bring some of the fresh air to Iranians. They even launched some of the fireworks celebrating the event in Iran, and for me it's not understandable how you can do it in the United Nations. Well, I hope that soon they're gonna pay tribute to Putin as well. In that case, I would stand too, laughing and dancing. Right, fantastic news from the United Kingdom. They also gave the new military package for Ukraine. It's about 217 million euros. Defense radars, false targets, electronic warfare systems, all with that package. It's awesome. UK, thank you so much for your great support of Ukraine. Right guys, just a quick update of what is happening on the front lines. We have several of the changes for today. In Chasiv Yar, Russia moved a little, taking this field under control. So let's go to the timeline. Today, definitely they're oriented to take at least this part. Well, maybe there will be a successful date in the coming weeks, so we're gonna see it. Also, there is the advancement of the Russian forces in Klishivka. It was yesterday and today. The vast part of Klishivka village is in the gray area. The fighting continues there. This village totally demolished. As we know, Russia occupied it, then Ukraine liberated it, and now Russia tries to occupy it once again. And also there is the Russian movement in Krasnogorovka town. So yesterday, today, not a huge success of the mighty Russian army. They're very slow. They lost their pace after striking Ocheretine. Actually, it was also the mistake that Ukrainian command done, regrouping forces with 115th Brigade, which wasn't really capable to withstand against the Russian attack. So we have what we have now. After all, with more reinforcements, Ukraine was able to stop the Russian advancement. Hopefully for a long time, because only in July Ukraine will be fully capable to fight against the Russian army. And all of the military help together with the F-16 jets will arrive. By the way, about the pilot training of the F-16s, we got the information that many of the pilots has already passed the trainings in Europe and also, for example, in Arizona. So now it's all about logistics to establish it in Ukraine. I honestly believe that Ukraine will use the commercial airfields to operate those planes because military airfields usually have rough runways, which is not okay for the nose landing gear of the F-16s. Definitely it was confirmed that this fighter jet has the problems with the weak nose landing gear, so it requires quite smooth runway pavement. And I think that Ukraine is capable to defend the commercial airfields. By the way, this information comes from the Russian side that Ukraine is willing to use commercial fields, so Russia might use their missiles to target the commercial fields of Ukraine, including the main base of my airline, Ukraine International in Boryspil. Anyways, we'll see how it goes because Ukraine is also out to obtain more air defense systems. Right, we have some of the clarification from the deep state military map source about the drone unit operators. Yesterday I told you about the directive which obligates Ukrainian drone units to go as close as 1.5 kilometers away from the actual fighting zone. It is less than 1 mile. It is not safe. Well, according to the deep state information, there is no such a main directive coming from the high Ukrainian military command. However, some of the local commanders of the regiments, units, definitely gave those similar orders, which is not good, and luckily this information appeared in internet and will be resolved for sure. So here we have positive news about it. My friends, and now don't forget to press your huge like to this video. By doing so, you help me a lot. And as usual, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are and have a great time.